Yeah, we're excited to get out here against Providence. Obviously, have a lot of familiarity. We played them, shoot, not that long ago. Back, I think it was on January 10th, I believe. Providence is going to be really well coached. Coach Cooley does a tremendous job. Their team's going to switch up defenses. They're going to go zone. They're going to zone press. They're going to play man. So you can't lose your rhythm on offense due to them changing defenses. They're also kind of disruptive. They have really good athletes. I think they're at their best when they can create offense off of their defense. Offensively, they're going to play through two guys. Nate Watson is an absolute load down low, and we got to do a great job on him. It's going to take a team effort. It's not going to be just Zach or Jason or Brian or Daniel. It's going to be a team effort. I always say post defense starts with ball pressure, so we got to play with hands on the perimeter, make his catches tough as we possibly can, and make it sticky for him down there. And then you got David Duke, who absolutely torched us in game one. He is a really talented guard. He's got great size, 6'5". I think he's averaging almost 7 rebounds a game in Big East play. Just shows you the versatility that he has. Obviously, he can score it. He play makes. They're going to put him in a lot of ball screens. So we got to do a great job. We got to keep him out of the paint and make him pass the ball. So we got our hands full with those two. And like I said, with Providence, you always think about at the end of the day, though, it's about the glass, which we got hurt on again in the Butler game. Right? They're going to try to be strong. They're going to be tough. They're going to fight, and we really got to block them out and limit them to one shot.
First question for Coach Adam.
Hey, Travis. We've talked a lot about shooting, and I think one of the interesting things, I'm sure you don't find it interesting, but is it hard to put your finger on why it seems like your team either fluctuates from making everything or making nothing? It's kind of this weird all or nothing with your team. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, Adam. We had really good shots last night. I always go back to shot quality. Like how are the looks that we're getting, right? And we'll take the shots that we got. I thought we took a couple shots, or was a couple that we should not have taken from three. And other than that, I mean, most of them were wide open. I think we went whatever it was, 2 for 19 from three. We make 3 or 4 or 5 of those, and guess what? Then we really have opened up the game. But like I said, give Butler a lot of credit. I thought they defended us well. We weren't as prepared for zone, like I said last night after the game, as we probably should have been. They played a lot more zone just due to their, some of the injuries that they had with their roster. But again, I always go back to shot quality. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think this year it's been a little bit funkier, just with the in and out of games, interruptions and stuff. I think that can be frustrating too. It's just hard to find that rhythm and flow that we normally have in a season. Playing 2 games in a week, and it's just been kind of choppy. So, but we don't want to use that as an excuse, and it is what it is, man. As long as our ball's moving and we're getting good shots. We'll live with the results. I told, it's funny, I met with Adam and Kunkel today. I said, hey, man, listen, you have to be aggressive. He had great looks last night. All 3 of his shots, were, I would say, very, very, very high-quality looks for Adam. And they just didn't fall, So, it is what it is. So you move on to the next one. You get back in the gym, and you get more reps up, and you keep that confidence. And so the next time when you're open, when the ball swung around to you, you're ready to step into that thing and shoot the ball.
Next question, Andy.
Travis, PC has changed a little bit since you played them. I think Bynum, the point guard, is now healthy, and Horkler's playing more. How does that change? Does that make them a better team or more of a problem?
Andy, I think Horkler is playing really well. He's added a different dimension to their team at that 4 spot. He's shooting it well here in league play. I think he's made 16 threes in Big East Conference play at a high clip. So he spaces the floor for him, and he gives them more size. He's 6'9". He's big and he's long. He's playing well. He's playing with a lot of confidence right now, and you can tell Coach Cooley has a lot of confidence in him just with his minutes that are being played. So yeah, I think he's changed their team, and then getting Bynum back, he's still probably not playing the normal load of minutes, Andy, that he was playing kind of earlier on in the year. Coach Cooley's probably trying to figure out how to work him back in there, but he brings them a guy that's a pure point guard. He's kind of a table setter, gets them in their offense, knows how to play, can get guys shots, can probably move David Duke a little bit off the ball as well at times, and to take a little pressure off Dave. Not that Dave, he can handle that pressure. I can tell you that from seeing that up close and personal on January 10th. But Bynum does. He gives him another guy that can really play make.
Next question, Joe.
Yeah, similar to how Horkler stepped up, Alan Breed's really taken a big step forward in the last few weeks. Is he a guy that worries you at all?
Yeah, he's playing well, man. He's gotten a lot better. It's funny how important it just kind of shows you, Joe. Obviously, he's gotten better as years went on, but I think your confidence level wavers throughout the year as well as a player, right? And I think for Allen, he's a freshman. He's probably trying to find his way there for a while, and then all of a sudden he got thrusted into the starting lineup and started playing major minutes and was kind of allowed to play through some mistakes. And I think it's allowed him to have a lot of confidence and kind of figure it out, and because he's a really talented dude, man. I remember watching him in AAU and in high school. He's a good player. So, yeah, I mean, he's a guy that can drive it, attacking style player. We got to keep him out of the paint. He's got good size. He's tough. Yeah, so we're definitely game planning for him, Joe. I think he changed their team in a really good way for them.
Next question, Adam.
Travis, you mentioned how much David Duke hurt you in the first meeting. And, I think David Duke is a guy where it's like, a lot of times you can do everything right defending him and he still burns you. But do you look at that first game and do you say, what we didn't work? We got to try something different. Like, how do you take that first experience and adjust?
Yeah, I think number one, you can't give him any open looks early, Adam, and we did. You can't let him get it going. You cannot. And the game plan was right. We have to execute it right. I do think the game plan is definitely right. We have to make things difficult on David. You do. And like you said, Adam, he's going to make tough shots. I mean, he's going to make some of those shots like, man, like, wow, that's a heck of a shot. As long as we're contesting hand to ball, we're making him earn it, I'm good with it. I don't want him to make it, but again, as long as he has to earn his points, I think that's critically important. You cannot give him anything easy where he sees the ball go in, where he's getting maybe an uncontested jump shot early or a dunk early. I think that just starts, you start playing with fire with a guy like David Duke. I mean, because he's as good as any guard in the entire country.
Next question, Andy.
Travis, if DeJuan Odom is playing like he did defensively and heating up the opposing point guard, how does that impact your defense? I mean, is that really vital to the way you play defense?
Yeah, I met with DeJuan in between the St. John's and Butler games, and I said, hey man, we got to get that presence back defensively that I thought he really gave us in the non-conference. And then he kind of got shut down there for a while due to some COVID protocols. And since then, I didn't really feel like he had that presence about him. And I thought that changed in the Butler game. But I think you're spot on, Andy. I think DeJuan is a game changer on that end. He can pressure the ball, he can pick you up full court, and he can contain the dribble. He can do both. And then I thought and that led for him to create some of his offense off of his defense and get out in transition to where he can really utilize his athleticism. I thought he really played well against Butler, and I'm excited to see what he can continue to bring, especially here against Providence, because we're going to need him out there because they got some really talented guards offensively.
Thanks.
Adam.
Travis, you've been around quite a bit, and you've done a lot of recruiting. And, I was thinking about your current freshman class, and I'm wondering, how can one really solid recruiting class kind of change the trajectory of a program? You know, I'm thinking back to that Trayvon Blewett and JP McCura recruiting class, and you look at how that played out and the impact that it had on your program's success. Like, how does that change the trajectory of your program? And do you feel like your current freshman class kind of possibly has that kind of potential?
Yeah, you know, recruiting is your bloodline to your program. You can't take recruiting classes off. I mean, you got to be able to stack classes. I think that's incredibly important. You know, you look back to that 2014 class in which you're referencing, Adam, when Trayvon and we had Larry Austin, McKinday London, I think Sean O'Mara, JP, Edmund Sumner. That was our building blocks, a lot of ways for the futures to come after that, right? You know, it was a big class for us. 2013 class did not go the way that we wanted it to at all. Actually, it was a down year recruiting wise for us. We didn't get a lot of our top targets, so it put a lot of pressure on that 2014 class. And you know, Chris Mack did a great job recruiting. So did Mike Pegues. And we were able to kind of land a really nice 2014 class. But I think, you know, again, recruiting is the bloodlines to your program. And you know, again, our class here in 2020. It's been a difficult year for those guys in a lot of ways. I mean, all three young men have had severe interruptions with their season. You know, in Colby, CJ, and DeJuan. But I think all three young men are winners. They're skilled. They're smart. They pick up things. I think all three guys are really good players, and I think they'll be a heck of a lot better next year than they are right now, right? That's the best thing about freshmen is they become sophomores. But all three guys are guys that definitely we're able to build around here in the future. So one class is great, but obviously you want to build back-to-back classes, right? That's the whole goal. And that if you want to be an elite team, that's what you got to be able to do. You got to be able to stack classes together.
Next question. Kevin, do you have a question?
Yeah, hey, Coach. Kevin Fitzgerald, Nick Bond and I, we've got the game in a couple of days. Hope you've been well. I think the last time I saw you was down in Charleston last year, so hope you guys have been
Yeah.
hope you guys have been well since. Hey, congrats on just where you guys are at this point, especially considering you know, everything you guys have dealt with. I want to ask about Colby for a second. I really like the way he played yesterday. Like, what are the examples of how he's grown and evolved this year?
Man, I think, you know, it's funny, like even the first game he was eligible to play, first game he played, not eligible, was against Cincinnati, our crosstown rival here. And you could even tell right then and there, man, like he played at his own pace, right? He never gets sped up, plays at his own speed. And that's a lot of time, that's not many freshmen do that, right? You know, a lot of times it takes a couple years for guys to play slow. And, you know, he did that even in his first game, you know, and because he had just come out of quarantine, had 1 day of practice, then he's thrown into the crosstown shootout. But he's grown significantly. You know, he can really shoot the ball. It's crazy, like when he was back at Nike EYBL, right? You know, that was the question mark a lot of people had on Colby. He just didn't shoot. He didn't shoot. Nobody knew if he could shoot. But if you looked at his free throw percentage, you could say, hey, you know, a lot of times your free throw percentage is very indicative of how much you can grow as a shooter, right? And his free throw percentage was through the roof in EYBL. And when we got him here, Kevin, like, I was surprised. Like, man, I was like, why don't you shoot more? You can shoot the ball. But I think he's just a guy that lets the game come to him. And he just literally does whatever the game tells him to do. And if he feels like somebody else is a little bit more open, he's going to pass up his open shot to get his teammate an even more open shot. But he's grown offensively. I think he's learning how to score at this level as well. I mean, obviously he had a double-double yesterday against Butler, but he's a guy that's going to assist. He's going to make a lot of plays. He's 6'6". He guards really, really well. I mean, he's playing at a very, very, very high level right now for us, and we need him to, and hopefully he can really peak here down the stretch for us to ultimately reach where we want to go.
Hey, Coach, I want to ask just about, the last month and a half, and you probably talked, kind of ad nauseum about it, but, I'm always curious, and it seems like just about every program has been affected, by COVID. You guys have had, many adjustments and disruptions, if you will. What are the ways that you kind of nurtured the chemistry, the continuity? How did you do that throughout the last month and a half while, access to the players and seeing them is obviously limited? What were the ways you kind of nurtured it along, and the kind of the tricks that you tried to employ there?
Yeah, I think it's tricky, Kevin. So when this whole thing started back and whatever it was, when everybody when the country basically got shut down last spring, right? That was when everybody was introduced to Zoom, right? So then everybody's on Zoom calls, and you're trying to get your whole team to learn each other and to develop relationships when we're all spread out all across the country, because we got a lot of new guys on our team this year. Well, then you kind of fast forward to that. So it was really cool at first, right? It's like Zoom, hey, this is kind of good. This is nice. Well, about 2 months into it, a month into it, it's kind of like, dang, man, hopefully this thing doesn't go too much longer. Hopefully we can get together as a group in person, right? And so then it becomes like June, and you're like, man, we keep on doing this every twice a week, having these team meetings, and just kind of felt like things were getting stale, right? And because it's a long time we were apart from each other, and then you kind of fast forward that to the season. It's like we're around each other, and then we're shut down, and we're not around each other. And it's like, man, I felt like our guys have a lot of Zoom fatigue, and I think you lose guys in a lot of ways by doing things over this. So I told our staff, I said, fellas, we have to be very strategic and organized with how we communicate with our players during quarantine. I don't want to do Zoom constantly. I feel like that's forced a little bit. I felt like our guys, like I said, had a little bit of fatigue with it. So more FaceTime, more texting, more keeping things light, more talking to guys individually rather than just as a whole team. And we did that in the first time we got shut down back in December. We did some Zoom calls, and we'd say, hey, listen, what did you notice about the Marquette game last night? We'd have our whole team watch a Big East opponent and get their thoughts on it, and almost do a scouting report on the whole Big East, all the Big East teams. That kind of engaged our guys and gave our guys a little bit of a preview of what was to come in the Big East play. The second shutdown, we would still do a little bit of the same thing, but then when we got shut down again, it was like, man, I don't think we can go back to that again. You can't go back to the well for a third time. And that's when I said, man, we're staying away from Zoom calls. You just don't want to lose your group, man. But it's challenging. It is really, really, really challenging. Coach Jennings, each guy has a bike in their room, that they would get workouts in to try to stay in shape during the quarantine. And, again, we check in with those guys, try to make it fun, try to make it competitive, to keep those competitive juices kind of flowing. But it is difficult, man. I mean, it's been frustrating, but our guys have done a good job sticking together.
Yeah, no, the fatigue, I think, is the perfect word. I'm sure it was Paul. Who were the encouraging players? The voices during this whole thing, even maybe ones that surprised you.
Yeah, I would say, obviously we have our three captains, Jason Carter and Zach Fremantle and Paul Scruggs, but AK, Adam Kunkel, he's a unifier, man. He just has energy to him. CJ Wilcher did a great job, and just keeping things light. It's like, don't talk about it, just have fun with them. Sometimes, and I think that's so important, man. But we have a very engaging group. We have some big personalities. And guys that can really connect, which is important during these times.
Yeah. Hey, I've got one here, and I want to ask about Zach. It's amazing. The jump in general is pretty great, and how he's obviously blossomed this year. And you probably talked at length about that. But I think just being able to sustain it, to me, is really impressive this year. And I wonder what are the reasons behind that you see every day as to that's why he is sustained, and he just continues to play at this level all year.
Yeah, I'd say number one, he has an elite work ethic. I mean, he spends more time in the gym than anybody on our team. And quite honestly, probably more than anybody since Tu Holloway. Tu Holloway graduated, I want to say back in, man, about around 2011, 2012, right around in there, I think. All these years blend together now. But he has that it factor as far as work ethic goes. I mean, he's here in the morning, he's here at night. A lot of times you don't even see bigger guys have that work ethic. Sometimes big guys just like to play because they're big, right? But he truly loves ball, lives for it. And then I'd say, secondly, Kevin, he has he's extremely competitive. I mean, it's just who he is in nature. It's how he is every day in practice. He hates to lose. Absolutely hates to lose. He hates to get a foul call on him as well. He hates anything that happens to him negative. He hates missing a shot. But again, I'd rather have a guy bent that way than the other direction. And I think he's learning how to channel that energy in the right way. He didn't always know how to do it last year. And, for Zach, like, for example, yesterday against Butler, he was in foul trouble the whole game. He dominated the game, and he barely played his normal load of minutes. But he kept his mind. He didn't get he came in the game at the end of the game. He knocked in all the free throws down the stretch that he was supposed to knock in. I don't know if he would not have done that last year. And he probably would not have done that at the beginning of this year. And I think he's grown mentally and become mentally tougher, and that's kind of helped him get through some adversity here throughout the season.
Yeah, no, it's fun to watch his fire, no question. Hey, I appreciate you guys letting me jump in and ask a few. Looking forward to it. I'd be remiss if I didn't say if you're going with the blue Nikes again, that was a nice clean look. I like that one, so I would vote for those again.
You vote for that? I'll tell Mario.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Kevin.
Do we have one more question for Coach, or we'll let him go? Andy, you want to take it?
Yeah, thanks. I don't want to keep you from practice, Trav, but over and above Watson, they got a lot of 6'8", 6'7" guys who seem to be interchangeable. I don't know if Nichols is healthy, but Gant and Croswell and those guys. Now that you have access to Griffin and Ramsey, is that really going to help to be competitive, especially at their little gym?
Yeah, it's funny, Andy. I knew, like, even going into this Butler game last night, I was like, man, the one thing that can't happen is we can't get any foul trouble up front. And what happens? Jason Carter gets two and Zach gets two. Because I knew we just Daniel had not played all year, and really, and like, so it gave him, but I was proud of Daniel. Daniel really stepped up and gave us a huge lift there at the end of the first half. I think having him available, having Brian available, which he'll be able to play, will be big for us because we're going to need that depth in this game. It's going to be physical. We got to keep those guys off the glass, like you said, Andy. I think Ed, he does a great job recruiting these interchangeable, long, athletic, tough guys. Man, that's what they've had since Providence, since we first came in the league, right? And you just think of all those guys, LaDante Hinton or Alpha Diallo. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on. Ed's done a great job recruiting those guys that fit his system, and we got to keep them off the glass. They are going to attack, and we can't get in a jumping contest. We cannot. We did that against UConn, and UConn was longer and they're more athletic. And I'm going to tell you, Providence is the same. They're longer and more athletic. We did a pretty good job. That was the one thing we did a pretty good job of in game one. For the most part, we kept them off the offensive glass. And that has to happen on Wednesday night or we have no chance of winning.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks.
Thanks.